Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You'll be listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community. So we are the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 60 years of doing great things in our community, whether it's financial literacy, they work with the homeless, Alzheimer's, food insecurity. If there's a major cause, they're going to be there shoulder to shoulder on this. Honored to have in two colleagues I've known for quite a while that have done so many unbelievable things for our students, our educators, and everything in between in that world. That is Devin Vodicka. He's the co-founder and co-CEO of Learner-Centered Collaborative, joined by his colleague Katie Maritin, also co-founder and co-CEO of the organization. Devin and Katie, I get smarter just by hanging out to you guys. So how you doing, Devin? Good?
Life is good, yes. Always happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
Well, the content you provide is phenomenal. Katie, how you been?
I've been great. I'm excited to be here.
That's terrific. And joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. Kristen is the executive director of San Diego Writers Inc., so she's right in the wheelhouse of what we're doing. So Kristen's got a question for you, Devin. Getting started.
Yeah. Let's just talk about what the mission is and what that looks like in practice.
Yeah, so Learner-Centered Collaborative is a national nonprofit, but we have deep roots in the San Diego area. And we just are celebrating our 5-year anniversary.
Congrats.
And as part of that, we have launched our new mission statement.
Oh, okay.
And so very happy to share that our mission is to redesign the future of public education.
Okay.
And this is in service of our vision, which is that we see a future of education ecosystems where all learners know who they are, thrive in community, and actively engage in the world as their best selves. And in order to get there, we will need to reconsider the systems and structures and the design of our public education system. And we are excited to lean in to be part of that process of redesigning to create a brighter future for all.
So I'm going to brag about these guys for the next 15 hours. If there's anyone that can do this, it's these two. They've been leaders in this. They've never been afraid of taking on innovation, full steam ahead, no matter what roadblocks there are, and that's what you need. I got Devin. And thank you so much for being on the Classroom of the Future Foundation. You've been a supporter of that, and we appreciate it. We're not going to let you go in that aspect. And Kristen's very familiar with our organization. Katie's been a leader in this area so much, and I think you need trailblazers like yourselves, to do this unabashedly. Say we're going to have to change. And someone goes, "Isn't like that sitting there moving like a solar system?" It is moving a solar system. Talk about that, Katie.
It is. There's so many pieces that come into play. We have educators, we have families who have been in the system for themselves. They think this is how it's supposed to be. It worked for me. Too many of us think that we just have to survive school and we just have to move through it instead of really rethinking, redesigning our system so that 12, 13 years where we have young people in our systems, that we really develop them, we get them to know themselves, their aspirations, give them experiences. And that takes a total mind shift for educators to think about their role, not just imparting knowledge and moving them from class to class or year to year, but really getting to know young people and developing them and thinking about the multiple paths. It requires our families to lean in and partner and think about what that means. It's scary. I'm a mom of 2 high schoolers. I want them to be successful. And what that means in that path is different than it was 20 years ago, 50 years ago. And it takes leaders in our systems to be willing to lean in and lead the community.
Well, and you need the parents that are going to be with the pitchforks to say, I need you, school board, to sit there and look what they're doing. We're just chatting before this. Chris and I can't talk enough about what they do. Just talking about the philosophy of, just in the title of the organization, learner-centered collaborative.
Well, it really does start with the learners. And we talked about human development. If we don't center a system around the young people and who they are, we are doing something for them, and they're not really having the agency and the ownership to create those pathways. So for us, that's where we start, getting to know young people and really helping to make sure that the system is designed for them. One thing I will say on that, many people can mistake the learner-centered for just letting kids do whatever they want in a free fall. It's anything but. It's really anchored in what we know about human development, the science of learning, and how we can get young people to really grow and develop.
But, and that's true, okay? But we all know this. We can all go back and look at our school years. And Kristen, I'm sure you got examples in yourself and with your 7-year-old now. When you find that spark, whatever that spark is, and that spark in 7-year-old will be different than 9, that'll be different than 9 and a half. There's empirical evidence that they will thrive, okay, because the focus is on the learner, okay, and it doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. Hey, do what you want, and we'll see you in 182 days and see what the heck has gone on this. But it's just so spot on. Devin, that has been in both of your wheelhouses. I'm just so honored that to talk about this, and we can't talk about it enough. Yeah. How many people get it, that they understand this?
Well, I think it's a growing movement for sure, but I want to go back to the title a little bit, because it's also important to think about the second part of the learner-centered collaborative, which is that we as individuals don't exist in a vacuum. We don't exist in isolation. We exist in social communities, and it's the individual development and the collective development that is most important. And I think when you ask how many people get this, if you really ask questions about what are your hopes and dreams for the future, there's a lot of commonalities. And we have the privilege of working all across the country in urban settings, suburban settings, rural settings, East Coast, West Coast, all over the place. And there is something about humanity that we want to be the best versions of ourselves. We want to thrive in community. We want to develop. We want to contribute. And so I think underlying a lot of rhetoric and a lot of divisiveness that you hear about, there's so much that brings us together. And what we find is that when we create the space to bring people together in community and ask them these questions about what they want to see for young people, there is so much convergence, so much alignment. And when we're able to collaborate with communities where they have that sense of convergence and coherence and alignment, there's just incredible things that happen for young people. And so that is building this movement, and we are seeing more and more communities who say we want to be part of this learner-centered community. We want to commit to a different way of thinking about public education, and it's very exciting to see that grow.
So I got about 500 questions. And by the way, I fooled you. It's not a 27-minute interview. It's 27 hours. We're pumping in food and all that.
Lucky you guys.
Yeah, exactly. A couple things. One, maybe I'm beginning with the end in mind, with Steve Covey and all that business. Mm-hmm. But how will you know their success? Okay, how will you measure that as, okay, this district, this school, this county gets it?
It's a tough question.
I know it is.
So to Devin's point, it's that commitment. So we often start with what we call like a framework for the future, and really putting on paper those outcomes that we want to see. We know many communities want their young people to be collaborators. They want them to be critical thinkers. They want them to be innovators. So getting clear on what those outcomes are is critical. Otherwise, we start focusing and reverting back to standardized test scores as the only single metric of success. And we know that is not it. And don't get me wrong, I want kids to be able to read and write and be fluent in numeracy. But we have to think about what are those outcomes. So when we do that, then we start thinking about, okay, how do we look at our kids growing? it's not just a cut score. Are they growing in their skills? Are they able to demonstrate proficiency, that competency-based approach to be able to say, here's what I know and can do based on these outcomes. Defenses of learnings, being out in community. So I'd want to see kids are doing internships, kids are connecting in the world. We start tracking those sort of metrics. It's different than a kid sat in a class 180 days a year and completed a test.
There's absolutely no question about that aspect of it, because when it's all said and done, I think with your approach, there's a guarantee this will happen. The kids will be lifelong learners and love to learn lifelong. And the worst thing you can happen, and I'm speaking to the top educators around, is that we stifle the kids' love of learning because we've done something that is punitive in the classroom, and let's make this thing just crazy on this. Before we go to a short break on this, I know Kristen has a question on the school redesign, but talk about how this co-leadership is working, and was that your idea, Katie? Was it Devin? Was it you both came into it and just boom, it was an epiphany at the same time? Okay, Katie.
Well, we started Learner Centered Collaborative together.
Right.
We have been dreaming about this work since Devin was a superintendent in Vista and I was at the University of San Diego, and we were just seeing the need for bringing communities together and doing this work. And when we had the opportunity, it was a no-brainer to launch into this work. We have very complementary strengths, and so I think that's been really, really powerful. We have a deep trust and respect for one another. But Devin has been the CEO alone for the last 4 years, and it was Devin who really pushed. I thought, it's fine, I don't need the title. We do the work together, that's all that matters. And Devin really pushed for the title. Kind of realizing what it would mean and what it would signal to the community, not only our internal team, but to the external community. So if it wasn't for Devin pushing, it would not have happened in title. But it's been happening in practice for a while.
Yeah, I just want to add, functioning as co-leaders has been just a gift. And as Katie said, we have very, very complementary strengths, and I feel like we're much better together. And I did think it was important to formalize the title for many reasons. One is to give credit to Katie for all that she contributes and for her amazing leadership, but also because when we think about the future that we want, the idea of like a heroic solitary leader is antiquated. Successful organizations, they thrive because they have community, because they have collaboration, because they have systems for distributed leadership. And so when we think about redesigning public school systems, we also need to get away from this idea that one teacher can do all the things for all the kids, or one principal can do everything for an entire community, or one superintendent. It takes a collective effort. So we also want to model the future that we want to see in school systems and in the world. And it's been really, really gratifying to see the response and the affirmation that this is a model that when you have the right combination of talents and strengths and just convergence around what you're trying to achieve, it's a really, really effective model.
So we come back from break. I know that's going to be tied into the question Kristen wants to ask, and I'm going to do a follow-up to Kristen's question when it comes to school redesign. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest-running community podcast, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. So honored to have in the studio with us today my longtime colleagues, Devin, Vodicka, and Katie Martin. They are co-founders and co-CEOs of Learner Centered Collaborative, and we'll be right back after this short break.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification. is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. So thrilled to have been in the studio. Our friends of Learner Centered Collaborative, Devin, Vodicka, and Katie Martin, their co-founders and co-CEOs. And Kristen, I know you have a question regarding school redesign.
I do. Yeah, I have a couple. So hold on tight. Taking a step back, so, as a parent, as an educator, pick an area of redesign. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, though, what was the impetus? What were you both seeing in the ecosystem specifically that you were like, we need to redesign this? And then I guess my follow-up is, I see the collaborative nature of everything. Then in practice, what is happening? Is it curriculum? Is it technology? How is this being sort of played out? So just a real simple two-parter for you.
Yeah. Well, maybe let me speak to some of the need for change that we can do ecosystem. I think, there have been signals that we need to reimagine or redesign our public education system for a long time. And when you look at the history of our system in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that was a period of a lot of innovation in public education. And it was at the time that we were transitioning from an agricultural society to an industrial era. And we created schools that emulated this factory model of batch processing, mass production. And there were a lot of benefits to that model for a long time. But the world has changed significantly, and our systems and structures have not. And that's put a lot of pressure on good people, hardworking educators who have great intentions, who are in the system that wasn't designed for the modern era, and it wasn't designed based on what we know about the science of learning and human development. And so that misalignment has led to a lot of disengagement from young people. Mm-hmm. We see, for the last 50 years, high school graduation rates have been pretty much stagnant. We now have a rise in, chronic absenteeism. And it's not because young people aren't capable. They just they don't see the purpose. They don't see the relevance. So they check out of our system. Families are demanding alternative choices. And we know that with the rise of, virtual learning and all these different ways in which we can capture evidence of learning, so many things are possible now that, were difficult years ago. And even if you think about, the structure of something like seat time, there was a study from McKinsey 2 or 3 years ago that said 58% of working Americans work from home at least one day a week now. So the adult working experience has fundamentally changed in this sort of hybrid model, and our school structures have not. So all of these things are putting immense pressure on our school systems to say the world has changed. How do we realign with what we know is possible for individuals, for communities, for us as a society? And we have done this before as a nation, as a society. We can do it again. We can redesign our systems and structures, and I'll let Katie talk about how we do that.
See how we complement each other.
Indeed.
So all of the things that Devin's pointing to, again, we see in communities across the country. And so when we talk about the ecosystem and what does it actually look like, the first thing is we have to start by defining those outcomes that I mentioned previously. And you see a lot of graduate portraits, graduate profiles, and people are saying, these are the things we want for our community. Mm-hmm. However, when they sit on a wall as a poster, they don't do anything fundamentally, and they create actually more frustration because people see the disconnect between what we say and what happens on a day-to-day basis. And so this is where we begin, not where we end. And then we talk science of learning. We know a lot about how humans develop, about how we learn. And so for a long time, I have been really advocating for these amazing educators who are shifting their practices, amazing principals who lead schools who do things differently, amazing superintendents like Devin who do this work. But they've been isolated pockets of innovation. They've been these pieces that haven't been connected. And so what we have realized when we start looking at hundreds and hundreds of schools and systems across the country that are doing great things for young people and getting to those outcomes, we saw the structures that Devin was talking about need to be redesigned. So where we go after we've defined those outcomes, and we work with communities to say, given these outcomes, we need to rethink these structures. We need to create these small learning communities for young people, because we can't just bring 1,400 kids to school and say, figure it out by, going through 8 classes a day. We need to have time where people belong and connect. We need to have opportunities for young people to do that real world learning, and there needs to be scheduled time to do it and structures. Not just on the backs of individual teachers who can figure out how to do a project while everyone else is going through the curriculum. So those structures help people say, this is what we're doing as a community and this is what we promise to do. We need those opportunities for collaboration, distributed leadership, and we need those structures for assessment. And so we help communities with those structures redesign what they do on a daily basis in time, in their calendar, with curricular resources, but it's co-designed. That is really, really, really critical. It is not coming from the outside, us saying, here's this great program that we're going to implement and everything's going to be great. It comes from the learners, it comes from the families, it comes from the educators coming together saying, this is a need we have, this is how to build on our strengths and assets, and here is the new way we're going to go about testing and doing things. And that redesign starts to evolve systems and structures to that place where we can really do things that we know work for young people.
Yeah, and this whole topic of, when everyone feels they're part of the team, whether it's the classified folks, whether it's the credentialed folks, it's the community leaders, it's the parents, it's the businesses down the street, and then of course the administrators, obviously there's where the buy-in is in that aspect of it as well. We can't talk about this enough, we can't do this enough. So I say this a lot. And both you guys will get this. And our producer's mom, very well, Devin, is LeAngela Brady.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, LeAngela's been great, as you all know. She's been chairing the Classroom of the Future Foundation and so forth. We're honored to have Noah with us over here. But as I talk to people about this, and we've been doing a show for now in our 4th year, we just finished Future Pathways Superintendents Unplugged. We get to interview all 43 superintendents. And so your predecessor was on, Matt was on a few times, of course, as you know. But I always say, when I was working for San Diego Unified, and I was there during the Tom Pezon era, and we get lunch and all that in the cafeteria, and how you doing? He goes, Drew, I have 3 votes still. And so superintendents know what that means. When if you have 3 votes, you got 3 of the board. When you have 3 of the board that doesn't want what you're doing, it'll be a tough nut for you to continue that. And I go, this conversation, I want to continue it when you guys come back on 4 billion more times this year. But talk about, I'll start with you on this, Devin, and you can add to it, Katie. You got to have board buy-in. How do you reach the board members?
Yeah, that's a good question. One quick thing I want to mention is a lot of what Katie was describing with this school redesign framework, it's all documented on our website. In addition to being a fantastic leader, Katie's a brilliant researcher, and she's written this ecosystem framework that I encourage everyone to look at. It's on our website, learnercenter.org. And to your question about politics, so if you think about the purest form of a representative democracy, our elected officials are representing the will of the community. They are the voice of the young people. They're the voice of the employers. They're the voice of the community organizations. And so when you actually embrace community-based co-design, the politics become really easy, because you're bringing people together by design, and the outcomes, the process, all of the things that are created as a result of it are owned by the community. Becomes very difficult for an elected official to stand against the will of the community. And so we've been in many communities where you have a divided board. There's a lot of challenges with managing that in terms of moving the school system forward. But when you really get that convergence around what are we trying to achieve, how are we going to do that together, how do we align outcomes, learning model, school design, enabling conditions, the culture that we want to have in this community, the politics, they get much easier.
Well, they should, because it's about the students.
Yeah.
As you guys know, 182 days, X amount of students and all
Yeah.
that business. And, of course, with the students comes all the infrastructure with it and the teachers that just do remarkable work. I'm preaching the congregation on it. This is where I hope learner-centered collaborative goes. And you guys have been very successful, and you'll continue to be successful in this area. From a greedy standpoint, because it's just so right on. We've needed this for quite a while. I hope somehow that it hits sort of the AVID culture.
Mm-hmm.
I was honored to be on the AVID board
Yep.
for 9 years, and AVID has seen its test in time for 46 years since Mary Catherine Swanson started it. Claremont High in 1980, and because it's been so successful, and because they've been true to what they wanted to do, and that they're not compromised. If you're an AVID school, you need to do X, and of course we all know what AVID has done. It's elevated it with some very rigorous curriculum on people that said no way these kids can learn, and of course you guys believe that every single kid that walks through that door can learn, and all that aspect of it. So I hope that's what happened in your area. Would love to have you folks, and I'm very serious, based on your travel schedule, if you can find a way to come in a minimum of once a quarter and bring in some of whether the districts or the schools that have benefited from it, because this is the way to learn. We know that. It's funny, when I was working for San Diego Unified, I was developing curriculum, but they barely had running water going on. That's how old I am, for God's sake. But, and you talk about the tests, one of the worst things we did, and I don't mean this to be political, and it didn't make a difference what side of the aisle you're on, was when we focused on test scores, and that was, it's a measurement, it's not the measurement. You guys know that, and you guys talk about that. It's how those kids, did they embrace what the learning is? Are they going to school excited? And do they want to go to that next step and continue to do that? And that's what you guys are all about.
Well, absolutely. And I think that when we see teachers, that's what they got in the profession for.
Yeah.
Most educators didn't get into the profession to make sure kids are passing a test,
Right.
and
That's right.
and privilege the test over individuals. And so when we walk into classrooms where there's joy, it's not just the young people, it's the adults as well who are excited to be there, and they're learning in a way that is meaningful for everyone in the community.
Well, listen, I know, Kristen, you are so laser beamed on, your child's work and and the schools, and you put such a big part in this. What are your thoughts on this collaborative they have?
I mean, that's another 7-hour conversation, but I'm always grateful to individuals who are trying to just, redefine education essentially. So I'm excited about the work you're doing.
I think I was just going to say, as
Please.
a parent, that's an important piece. I lean into that so much as I've, my views have shifted and evolved as my kids have gone through school.
Yeah.
And when we think about all of us, we need to empathize as parents, as educators, and stop pointing fingers, because when it comes down to it, we all really want the same thing, and it's about getting clear on that and making it happen.
Yeah, and again, and just it's in both your personalities. It's all about the team. It's all about us rowing in the same direction. Sometimes we'll get a little. Let's get us back on gear on this, because that's where it comes down to. And it's quite evident when you see the thing working, because you see graduation rates going up, kids staying in school, getting more engaged with the community, get focused on volunteering and everything that's in between on this. So Devin, Vodicka, and Katie Maritin, I'm just so proud to say I know you, and whatever we can do from our Spotlight on the Community show and everything else in between with Classroom of the Future Foundation, let us know so we can help continue to elevate this great collaborative you're doing.
Always happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community show. We're on the nation's longest-running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed, a credit union, 6 decades of doing great things in the community. So honored to have Devin, Vodicka, and Katie Maritin, co-founder and co-CEO of Learner-Centered Collaborative, and always a pleasure and honor to have as my co-pilot Kristen Fogel. She's the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. And to our audience, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.